Hey friends, Shay here, and it's time to wrap up September. Again, you'll probably see me in my office a little bit more than normal lately. It's just felt very comfortable to film in my office, and I hope you guys are okay with that. As you can see behind me, these are some of the titles that I've read since my last wrap up, and there was a lot of reading that's happened since I talked to you last. I'm going to be wrapping up everything through the end of September. So this will be everything before I started Love in the Night. You've already seen the Love in the Night vlog. If you've missed it, I'll leave it in the corner. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Typically, I start with the manga first and then go to the books. So that's how we're still going to format this. I will leave links to videos if there's anything to link to in the cards and down below. If you want to get more detailed information on anything I don't talk about at length. Let's go ahead and get started with the manga. First up, we have a NetGalley manga reading vlog. Basically, it was all Viz titles. I do have some physical and some digital within that vlog, so definitely check that one out. I did read some amazing things and some things that I learned that I don't want to continue. So if you want to know more information, definitely check that one out. I read an entire series digitally in the month of September. I had a night where I couldn't sleep, so I ended up just binging a series, and that was Kirakhan Today. This is by the same mangaka that does Kiss Me at the Stroke of Midnight. This is about a boy who has basically been given a year to live. Basically, at the beginning, we know that, what he has is considered terminal. And he ends up meeting this girl who wants to be his friend for the next year no matter what. And it's about their friendship turned relationship. And it's this amazing journey. It was so emotional. I ended up really enjoying it all the way through. It is 9 volumes. The first 7 are available through Kindle Unlimited. And then you have to purchase the last 2, which I did end up doing. I was so invested in the series that I knew that purchasing them was the right choice for me. Overall, I'm giving the series a 4 stars. It was really good, really solid. If this one ever does come out physically, there is a good chance I will pick it up because I did check most of it out through Kindle Unlimited. So I don't own copies except for the last 2 right now. Another series that I read 8 volumes of was My Boy in Blue. Again, 8 is all that was available through Kindle Unlimited currently. And in this one, we have a young high school girl who ends up going to this mixer because of her best friend's sister. She needed other people to go. These are 2 high school girls and a college age girl. So they all age up to the college age girl's age. And while she's there, she meets this police officer. He's 24. They seem similar in age. They're getting along really well. She lets it slip that she's actually a high schooler. And he doesn't want to do anything to disrupt his reputation. And so he kind of just ends things abruptly that night. And then later they run into each other again. And he still has very strong feelings for her. So he proposes that they get married and pursue a relationship through that. So they do end up getting married through permission from her parents, and the only stipulation is that she still has to live at home and finish high school before they're actually living together. So the parents are being very involved. So his coworkers know that they're married and things like that. So everything's very appropriate. Nothing bad is happening between them. Still very innocent. And it's a really cute age gap. I quite enjoyed it. And I like this take on an age gap where we have My Boyfriend in Orange, where he's just very casually being around her and kind of dating her without actually dating her. This one, they chose to be married because he doesn't want to do anything to make him look unqualified in his job and for people to not take him seriously. And so I really like the approach differences between the two. So right now I'm thinking I'm liking the position of My Boy in Blue a little bit better, but I do like the art better in My Boyfriend in Orange. So they're very similar types of stories. So if you like one, you will probably like the other, but some people have mixed feelings about that. Next, we have Cherie, My Destiny. This is a really cute BL centered around 2 different gourmet candy kind of shops. One specializes in Japanese sweets, and then there's one that focuses on Western sweets. And the guy who comes from France and has focused on Western sweets goes to confront the Japanese sweet guy, but he's like not even aware that he's around. And so it kind of forms this almost rivalry between the 2 of them, and they start to share sweets back and forth, and they end up having feelings for each other. It's really sweet and really cute. I really enjoyed it. There is one kind of sexual scene at the end of the volume, but other than that, it's pretty innocent all the way through, and I really enjoyed it. Then I have Animal Crossing New Horizons Volume 1. This one, it's just a lot of fun. If you're a fan of the video game, I think you'll like it. The last third of the volume just gives you tips and tricks for playing the game, which was a little disappointing for me. But it's worth at least flipping through at the bookstore for the Raymond chapter alone, because my husband and I both were in fits of giggles over that one. So, next up we have the Apothecary Diaries Volume 3. This one took a little dip compared to the last two. It wasn't as high action-packed, but there was a lot of character development within this particular volume. So I found that to be very interesting. Political maneuverings, discovering some things. It was still a really solid volume, but it's more of a 4-star instead of a 5-star for me, because the intensity wasn't quite as high, which is what I was loving about the series. So it did take a tiny dip. I don't expect it to last long, because we're definitely ramping up to another big thing happening. And I'm really excited to see where the series continues to go. I still thoroughly enjoy it. I love the art. Square Enix is really killing it out there with their titles, and I'm really happy with that. Next up, we have the last volume of We Swore to Meet in the Next Life, and That's When Things Got Weird, Volume 3. This is the final volume in the series. I adore this series. I think it's a really sweet, interesting take on an age gap. So basically, they're both reincarnated, and they have their memories from their past life. And so they immediately recognize each other. The problem is she's like a woman in her late 30s and he's 17. So it is a very large age gap. And they talk about how she doesn't feel it's appropriate or anything like that. And he still pursues her. You get glimpses of their past life. She was the princess. He was like captain of the guard kind of a thing, and they really wanted to be together, but they couldn't be. And so in this life, they swore to meet, and when they did, it changed their lives for both of them, and it was just really interesting. I thought it was sweet and cute. It's really innocent all the way through. They're never sexual in the volumes, so just know that it's really sweet, and I really enjoyed it. And it didn't feel like pedophile-y at all, because she was very like, this is not appropriate. I know you're my soulmate, but this is so bad. Like, it's a very good conversation about age gaps. So, highly recommend. Another final volume that I read this month was BL Metamorphosis Volume 5. I really love and adore this series. It did not end how I was expecting to, but I'm very happy with how it ended. I was very pleased, and I love them so much. There has not been a better manga series truly focused on female friendship that did not turn sexual or like a romantic relationship at some point that I've come across yet, and I highly recommend reading this. There is no romance involved. They both bond over a BL manga story, and it is amazing. I love it with my whole heart and soul. If you have not read BL Metamorphosis, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do. Next up, we have Living Room Matsunaga-san Volume 7. This is the first volume that I had not read previous to this point, and I am truly enjoying the progression of the series. I know we don't have too many more volumes left in the series as a whole, but I really enjoy Matsunaga and Miko or Mako, I forget. I love their dynamic, and I love that they're both thinking with their heads about the situation that they're in. Because again, this is another age gap. I like age gap, guys. You know this. You know this very much. And I just was really, really happy with the direction of the series. And it's one of those where I'm just a diehard for this series, and none of it feels pedophile-y at all. And it's so good. Like, it's just really, really good. Next up, My Precious Children, Sweat and Soap Volume 9. I love Sweat and Soap, one of my favorite series of all time. We only have 2 more volumes left of the series after this one. This one was much more emotional than previous volumes, but that is also because Asako had to face some of the demons of her past, especially in regards to her sweating and her smell. Essentially what happens is she runs into someone from her past that makes her feel bad and asks her about stuff that happened back then, and it's just awful. I was so upset reading it, and I hope with all of my heart that it continues to progress in the way that it was progressing towards the end of the volume. I expect it to. The cover of Volume 10 is one of my favorite covers of the year, for sure. it's just so precious. I love it so much. And then I have 2 volumes of Accomplishments of the Duke's Daughter. I read volumes 3 and 4. I really enjoy this series. I love that our heroine is smart. She is not dependent on a man. She is running her area by herself. Like, she is totally a boss lady, and I love her to bits for it. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking out the series. There are 7 volumes out from 7 Seas currently. I cannot wait till I find out when the next volume comes out. Because I don't think it's complete at 7. I'd have to double check that, but I don't think it's complete. I read The Walls Between Us, Volume 1. I had this one checked out from Kindle Unlimited. This is a childhood friends to dating kind of situation, but it seems like there's a love triangle as well. I gave this one 3 stars. I think this kind of a plot has been done better, so it's not my favorite. I'm not going to continue it. If you're interested in the art, still definitely check it out. I mean, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you're checking it out for free. You can check it out from a library. I recommend it. But this one is just, it wasn't jiving for me. The story felt too forced and too stinted. So I went ahead and I decided not to continue with that one. I did, however, continue on with Defying Kurosaki-kun. I read volume 6, 7, and 8, so I've now read everything that is available through Kindle Unlimited, and I do want to continue this series. I'm still really enjoying it. Both guys are very interesting. You know, clearly she's going to be with Kurosaki, not the other guy, but it's one of those things where there's a power dynamic between the two of them that's really interesting to me. Even between the 2 guys, it's interesting. So I have my thoughts on how I would want it to go, but I'm not the mangaka, so I can't decide. But I really am happy with where it's at. And then last but not least for the manga that I've read in the second half of September is Witch Hat Atelier Volume 8. I love this series. This was another solid installment in the series. I would give this a 4 instead of a 5. It did take a bit of a dip down. We focus on this cute guy on the cover that we've seen before. He's kind of got some stuff that he needs help with, and it leads to some other things going on that are really interesting to me. So I do highly recommend the series. If you're not reading it yet, I recommend putting it on your lists. Okay, editing Shay here, still at my desk. I just realized I forgot to talk about the final 2 volumes of The Rose of Versailles. Volume 4, you get the canon end to the story, and then you get a bunch of extras in Volume 5. But I love The Rose of Versailles. Solid 5 stars to both of them. I love, love, love the series. It's a great classic manga for shoujo lovers. It's very overly dramatic. We all love Lady Oscar. Period. End of story. Read The Rose of Versailles if you haven't. Back to normally scheduled Shay. All right. So with that said, let's move on to the books. So book-wise, the first one we're going to talk about is Bound to the Battle God by Ruby Dixon. I don't remember the name of this series, but there's 2 books out currently, and the 3rd book is coming out soon. I felt like this one was overly long. I feel like the same story could have been told in a condensed format, and it would have been much more enjoyable, because I felt like there were parts of the story that were repeating, and so I didn't really enjoy the repeatingness of it. So I ended up giving this like a 3.5 star, because overall I did enjoy the story. It was just a little drawn out for me. I did read this on audio. I checked it out from Kindle Unlimited first. So I was able to get it half price. That's one way to get your audiobooks cheaper through Audible if you have Kindle Unlimited. Then I also listened to No Ordinary Christmas. This was a cute Christmas contemporary. I also got an e-arc from Forever Romance, and I just really enjoyed this. I mean, if you love your Hallmark Christmas movies, this is definitely one to pick up this year. Really, really enjoyed it. I don't remember too many specifics about it at the moment, other than that it was really sweet and I really enjoyed my time. Then I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I'm giving this one a 4 star. I didn't like it quite as much as I enjoyed House in the Cerulean Sea, but it does have that cozy found family kind of feel to it that the previous one does. This one is more sad, I would say. It does focus more on grief and loss and ways to live your life. And so I found that to be a very interesting discussion that TJ Klune was having. And I just like House in the Cerulean Sea a little bit more. It's still a solid book, so if you're a fan of TJ Klune's writing, I recommend giving it a try. Next, we have Husky by Jessa Kane. This is a big guy romance. He's a big, burly man. The woman is a fashion designer, and she's supposed to be designing a men's line, but none of the male models are inspiring her, and she comes across this big, manly man working at a bar. He's got tattoos. He's got a tire around his middle. Like, he's a big guy. And she's so inspired to, like, design clothes for him. She asks him to model for this show for her clothing line to launch. And he agrees to do it. And they end up getting very sexual while everything goes on. And it ends up being a really sweet romance for them. It is a fast, like, really quick romance because they don't know each other long before they're, like, really into each other. So if you're not into the insta-love kind of thing, this book might not be for you, but I did enjoy my time reading it. And then I did read White Whiskey Bargain by Jody Slaughter. Thank you, Izzy, for talking about this book so much, because that's what finally got me to pick it up. I've had this checked out on my Kindle for a while from Kindle Unlimited, and I finally got around to reading it, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. I really loved the crossing enemy lines, enemies to lovers, Romeo and Juliet almost kind of feel to this, but you can definitely tell that it has that great Jody Slaughter twist to it, and I really just had a great time. Highly recommend picking this one up if you haven't. I gave it a solid 4. Next, I read Green-Eyed Monster. Y'all can thank Heather from over at Hia Booktubes for that. And Heather talked about this. This is like a 25 to 50 page novella about a nerdy orc and a little like fairy sprite kind of person. It's just really sweet. They have this really sweet interaction and connection, and they hook up, and it's great. He has tusks. It's wonderful. And that's my second romance in September with tusks, because bad guy, he had tusks as well. So I guess I have a thing for tusks. I don't know. Then I buddy read Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas with Lindsay over at Lindsay Tutt. I did like West's story, and Phoebe's wonderful. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Up to that point, Reese Winterbourne was my favorite of the Ravenel heroes. But I'm currently reading Chasing Cassandra with Lindsay, and Tom Severin is definitely trying to steal the show. I'm really loving Tom, and it's personal why I love Tom. I'll talk about it more when I finish it, but yes. Reese and Tom are going to be my favorite Ravenel heroes, I'm thinking. But Devil's Daughter was great, solid 4. Then I read The Inn on Sweetbriar Lane. I ended up listening to this and switching back and forth with my ebook as well. And this one was a really cute second chance childhood lovers kind of story. And it all centers around her daycare and his son or his nephew, I think. It's just really cute. I really, really loved it. Highly recommend. Then I read Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. I buddy read this with Christy over at A Nerdy Book Life, I believe. She'll be linked down below, as well as Lindsay, even though she's not super active on YouTube these days. This is a story about 2 sisters who don't have the best of relationships and don't really understand one another. One sister comes to the other and says, "I'm sick. I think I have cancer. I'm about to go get tested." And they start to rekindle their relationship at that point. And things have been strained with their parents for a long time. And so it's just about how these 2 sisters aren't thriving in life, and they need to learn to rely a little more on each other so they can thrive better. It's beautifully done. It was an emotional book, and it is about this sister being sick. So if that can be a trigger for you, please be cautious. But I definitely enjoyed it. Solid 4. Permanent Record is still my favorite Choi book to date. Then I read First Love Take 2. This is one of the best books I've read all year. We have a heroine who has on-page panic attacks, has touch aversion, is smart, and is trying to be a good daughter. She's a doctor, and she's very accomplished at what she does. And this is about her second chance with the black man that she loves. He's a very successful man. His family has ideas of who he should be with. Her family has ideas with who she should be with. She's been stringing a poor guy along, not intentionally. She really thought it was going to work until Daniel came back into her life. Their friends played matchmaker, so they ended up staying in the same apartment for a period of time. Shared sleeping area, bed sharing, forced proximity. It was all the things that you would want. It was a beautiful romance, highly emotional. I had to put the book down more than once because this book meant a lot to me. This is definitely one of the best books I've read all year. Expect to see it on my end of the year list. This is a must read if you are someone with anxiety And if you're looking for a different kind of representation, because I have never seen touch aversion addressed in a romance, and it was beautifully done in my opinion. I cannot speak for that representation, but the anxiety representation is solid. And Daniel's a great hero who helps her through her panic attacks. Like, I'm going to cry just thinking about the beautiful things that he did to help her with her anxiety, because I have a partner who helps me through mine. And this is something that's super important to me. And I'm getting emotional. Sorry, you just get to see me cry. But this book is not only bridging cultural differences, it talks about mental health, it talks about familial expectations, and how sometimes the way to be happiest is to let your family down and just to do what you believe is right. And it's beautiful and amazing, and I won't shut up about this book. It is so good. Please, please, please read it. Please support this author. I thought the first book was really wonderfully done as well. The first book was The Trouble of Hating You. I cannot wait to see what else we get from this author, because there's a whole group of friends that we get to go through. So I'm very excited for the next one. And then last but not least on this list is a really sweet book by Jill Shalvis called Instant Gratification. This was just really sweet, really fun. I had a great time with it. I always have a great time with Jill Shalvis novels. This one's a 4. It's a little more forgettable. I don't remember too much about it. We read it long enough ago, but I still had a great time with it. And Jill Shalvis books are basically just palate cleansers. You go in knowing you're going to get an HEA, and you're going to have a good time while getting there, and you'll usually have some other emotional thing that you deal with along the way. But I highly, highly, highly recommend reading some Jill Shalvis if you haven't. If you want recommendations specifically of where to start, I would love to help you out, so just let me know. And with that said, that's everything that I've read in the second half of September. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please pardon me for getting a little emotional as I talked about First Love Take 2. It's just something I really, really care about. I try to keep my tears in when I'm on my channel, just so that you guys don't have to see my ugly crying face. So anyways, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite read from September was. If you're here just because you love me, go ahead and put a leaf emoji, because it's fall time. I love fall. It feels so perfectly fall outside today. So definitely do that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.